You know, the other day when I said it was like 61 degrees, well, that is long over. You know what else is over?
The wait for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth!
You know, it's weird because it feels like not that long ago that I was getting so excited about the first Final Fantasy VII Remake. And that was right at the beginning of COVID. And that was almost to the day 4 years ago. These last 4 years, I have done a lot, but it still feels like it went by really quickly. Maybe I'm imagining things, but it does feel like time has started to slow back down a little bit. Maybe it's still going just as fast as ever. But in any case, it is time to get my affairs in order because no one is going to see me for a couple of days. It's time to go mole man. Full mole man. Oh, actually, one more thing. I rented a couple of lenses for the solar eclipse in April. We're not gonna do anything for Adventure Archives, but I am going to film it. Last time we rented one of these, which is the Sony 70-300G, this was not adequate. This time I'll be doing 800 millimeters and 1200 millimeters. But if you're gonna be filming, lock in your rental now because you don't wanna be doing that at the last second. Also make sure you get your glasses and your lens covers 600 millimeters. That's like the minimum of what you want. Well, did I finish everything I needed to get finished before tomorrow? No, I did not. You're watching this after it's already happened, but it is now time to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's just one more night of sleep. First thing in the morning, going to Best Buy. Come on, man, come on! After 65 wonderful hours, I am finished with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Well, I say finished, but truth be told, this is the first time in a very long time that when I have finished the main story in a game, I don't feel like I am at all done yet, and I cannot wait to go back in there and see everything I missed. This is one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. The sense of adventure, the pitch perfect tone where you have serious story moments and just absolutely ridiculous other moments like Red 13 wearing a soldier's uniform and oh my god, it's so good. How could it be so good? Also, on that note, how could anybody make a game that is just so perfectly tailored for my taste? Just from top to bottom. And there is just so much of it. Every time I got to a new area in the game, I was like, surely they won't have another entire world map devoted just to this area with its own side quests, own battles, own intel things that you gotta check off. If you're mainly interested in story, I kind of think you need to play like the Crisis Core prequel and the original FF7 to really get a lot out of it. But if you're just looking for a great adventure, a game that takes you on an adventure with other characters and so much variety, the card game alone you could spend like 20 hours on. Easy game of the year and easy top 10 games of all time. Now, I'm pretty good at gauging when it's just me that's excited about something. Case in point, Final Fantasy 15, when that came out, that was one of my favorite games of all time. But I could see objectively how if you weren't already into that, you wouldn't be into it. And if you couldn't see past all the jank, you definitely wouldn't be into it. But with this game, it may not be in your top 10 games of all time. But if you just enjoy a good video game, look no further. Totally unrelated, but I cannot whistle. But lately, when I've had a little downtime waiting for something to render, I've just sat here and tried to learn how to whistle, and every now and then I can produce a tone, but I have no idea how you would adjust that tone. And the weirdest part is that I'm not doing anything differently than what I've always done when I tried to whistle. I just saw this article that said, I learned to whistle as an adult. And one of the things it said is you just gotta keep trying. And I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Why can I do it now? But I could never do it before. Did I just not sit there long enough trying? And why was my brain able to figure it out at some point? For those of you who don't know, I started teaching Zumba classes in 2010. In roughly October of 2022, I decided to stop teaching because I just didn't have the time to dedicate to my classes to actually make them good. And I was also pretty burned out on them at that point. Now with the Zumba class, you have to have a bunch of different songs and a bunch of interesting choreographies to go with them. What this means is you constantly have to be on the lookout for new music, and whenever you find new music, you gotta find a choreography or make a choreography that goes with that song. And both of those things take time and energy. And do you remember the other day I was talking about how perfect is the enemy of good? Well, let me throw another wrinkle at you. Good is the enemy of great. And what I mean by that is I've taught so many classes and I've heard some of these songs and done the choreographies to these songs literally over 1,000 times. If you asked me right now to teach a Zumba class, I could do it at the drop of a hat, just like that. Would the class be any good? It would be good enough. It would pass as a Zumba class, but it wouldn't be great because I wouldn't be excited to do it. What would invariably happen is every week when my class rolled around, I'd be like, oh man, I really need to learn some new songs. So like the day before, I would try to find a song and I'd come up with a terrible choreography, or I'd find a terrible one online. And then the next day I'd come into class, not remember half of the choreography. And that did nothing for my own enthusiasm and excitement, which is very important if you're actually teaching the class. But since I had that ability to teach a full class, I could always just fall back to this good enough. And it always prevented things from being great. But you've gotta put in the hard work to make something great. You can't just fall back on what is good enough, and you can't just rely on those grooves in your brain where you're just like, this is good enough, I could do this in my sleep. Setting up this microphone here takes a ton more work than just using the microphone on the camera. But doesn't it sound so nice? Wasn't it worth it? Doesn't it make me excited to make the video and you, however subconsciously, enjoy the video more? Anyways, all that being said, it's been like a year and a half since I stopped teaching. I'm feeling excited to teach again, and I really have the momentum and drive to actually make the class great and refresh it from week to week. At least every 2 weeks, I can find a new song, spending the time to actually come up with a good choreography. And if something's not working in the choreography, I could spend more time to figure it out and make it better and make the classes just more exciting and like complete in a nice package. Oh! Also, as a quick aside, isn't it funny how in the past you would spend so much time and effort to hide the microphone, and now people are out here holding Rode NTG3s handheld on their YouTube videos? And you know, I've never burned out of Adventure Archives because it's always new. It's constantly refreshing itself. Even now, when we've written over 500 original pieces of music, well over 500 pieces of original music. I think it's like, actually I don't know how much it is. It's way over 500. We could never write another song and just reuse our old stuff. But that is the surest fire way of becoming bored with what we're doing. Every time we go to a new location and we make a new video and we have new music and I see that music put to the video, it's like opening Christmas presents every time. And also pushing the boundary of what you can do. Pushing past that every time is just, it sucks in the same way that exercise sucks. It hurts at first and you're just so crappy at first. But then you push through and you're like, man, I can do anything. And speaking of exercise, a big reason why I want to start teaching again is because dancing is such a more complete form of exercising. I love running for a lot of different reasons, but it uses one set of muscles in one direction and it uses your heart, and that's basically it. And don't get me wrong, I love the feeling of picking a direction and just going. It is so incredibly freeing. But I'll be honest, if I didn't have this watch with podcasts and music and these wireless headphones, I would not stick with it the same way that I stick with it. And teaching a Zumba class where you do the exact same songs and exact same moves week to week has the same problem that running does, which is you're using the exact same muscles in the exact same way, and your body just needs to be surprised and on its toes all the time to feel at its best. Bar none, my favorite podcast is ATP, the Accidental Tech Podcast. One of the guys on there, his name is John Siracusa. He is right about everything. It's absurd. His opinions are all perfectly measured, perfectly reasonable, and always very realistic, taking into account human nature and what people actually do. It's weird how right this guy is all the time. But anyway, somebody asked the host one time, what do you do to stay in shape? And John said, I don't do enough, but back in the day, sports was the way he stayed in shape. And man, when I played basketball, staying in shape, it was so easy. You don't do anything, you just play. By the nature of the sport, how you're doing all sorts of different movements, you're using strength, you're using speed, you're stopping, you're starting, your body would just use every single part. The problem is you can also get injuries very easily from that type of exercise. So to get the unpredictability plus the varied movement, dance is actually a really great substitute for sports. And if you're doing it in a very regimented way, like a dance class, where you're doing choreographies that fit to a song, you have to work really hard to constantly refresh it and keep it new, or it's just gonna get stale really quickly. But that is what I am going to endeavor to do, and I think I can do it. Pretty excited, I'm feeling pretty good. I think we can do this. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. That'll do it for today's vlog. If you're a patron, I hope you are enjoying the Kumano Kodo Part 3. If you're not a patron, please consider subscribing. $2, you get to watch it early. It was an incredible amount of work to get these 3 episodes done, but they are done. We've still got more Japan videos coming up. In fact, we've got at least 3 vlogs, 1 big trip around Japan. That should be its own episode. And then we filmed 2 other episodes already. But we got stuff in the works. We got stuff waiting to be edited. We just need to buckle down and really get it done, which we will, as we have been doing. But thanks again for watching. Hope you have a good one. See you in the next one. For those of you who don't know my history, I taught Zumba classes beginning in 2000. For those of you who don't know, I taught Zumba classes beginning in 2010.